All right, let's cross back to Yerevan and say hello to Berge Setrakian, president of the Armenian General Benevolent Union. Thank you for speaking with us here on France 24. You are an attorney based in New York City. Tell me how the Armenian Genocide affected your family personally.
You know, the effect of the Armenian Genocide carries itself through a whole century. It affects everybody's life. The deportation and the way that my generation grew up. Obviously, we were not involved directly in the genocide. We were born years later, but we lived it through our grandparents. We lived it through our parents. Our grandparents used to live with the nostalgia of the old country, and for them, old country was Turkey. And suddenly they were homeless and trying to get adapted to a new land dispersed around the world. And practically every moment was genocide was on their mind. Like my grandmother, and her parents had been killed, and her brother, they were separated, and her brother, who was at that time about 10-year-old, was buried under the bodies of killed people, and he was smart enough not to make any noise. And at night, he came out and started walking all the way to Aleppo and then to Iskenderun. And after years, through common friends, sister and brother met again. And you can just imagine the trauma that they carried with them. And every time that we used to have a family gathering when I was a child, 10-year-old, 12-year-old, and they were trying to enjoy a drink, a meze, the old food that they used to share in Turkey. Always it ended up with tears and sadness. So for the rest, it affected every Armenian's life for the last 100 years.
And what would your
we should find.
I was going to say, what would your grandmother make of,
yes,
of the commemorations that are taking place today?
If she was alive, she, especially this week, should have been somehow vindicted. Not for the sake, because she was a very, very God-loving, pious person. I don't think that vindication was her aim, but she would have thought that finally we are starting to see some justice at the end of the tunnel, and that perseverance pays. And while the Ottoman Empire and the successors, the Turkish government used to think that with time people will forget and the memories will fade away, but on the contrary, with the new generation, while standing up, we feel much stronger that we need the recognition, we need justice, because if there is no recognition for a crime, then it will be twice repeating the same crime. And as President Hollande said today beautifully, yeah.
I was going to say,
I'm listening.
You heard our correspondent Armin Georgian say that there's a bit of a dichotomy between the Armenians of the diaspora, like yourself, and those that live in Armenia today. They want to build a viable republic. For them, normalization of ties with Turkey is something they strive for.
Well, you know, after we are one nation, a nation beyond borders. We have Armenia and we have the diaspora. Obviously, the Armenians of the diaspora have been more directly affected by the genocide because they used to live in Western Armenia, which was mainly Anatolia and all the way to the west to Izmir and Istanbul. The direct effect on the individuals is somehow different, but it affected the nation, and today we have an independent Armenia. If not for the independent Armenia, I don't think that would have gone as far as we did the last few years. And what happened today, it was something extraordinary. So it's true that for Armenia, they have to take into consideration the present reality. Don't forget that Turkey has a full blockade on our borders. They blame other countries for blockades on other people. But since 1994, we are already a landlocked country. And yet we are blocked on one hand by Turkey, on the other hand by Azerbaijan. And we are struggling in a certain way. The genocide somehow is continuing, but we are proud people, we are smart people. Today we have a beautiful country. We have some economic problems, but the economic problems are not going to let our people give up their continuous sought for justice. And the Armenian government has been really up to the standards, and without an independent Armenia, the diaspora and the Armenian nation couldn't have achieved these results.